Hi, my name is Yetunde Hofmann, and I just love nothing more than helping people and organizations get the very best out of all of who they are. Because when we operate at our very best, it's amazing what we can create, the results we can create, not only for ourselves, but indeed for our team members, our communities and clients, and indeed society. I am the author of Beyond Engagement, the value of love-based leadership in organizations. The reason why I wrote this book is because I believe there has to be another way. I am a former global head of HR for a FTSE 25 business in the UK, driving growth across 160 countries and being responsible for a lot of change. And I've come to appreciate that unless you value the human being, regardless of where you are in the world, and you see the beauty that's innate within them, and you appreciate what they can contribute, and you believe they can contribute no matter who they are, it's difficult to really achieve trust and to achieve loyalty and indeed their productivity. And so I interviewed over 45 different business leaders and I quoted over 30 of them in my book. And they share their perspectives on what love means to them, the barriers to introducing it into organization, what can be done to overcome these barriers, and what you can do to develop love as a capability in your leaders and indeed in your organization. Now, what do you define as love? My definition is this, and it's in the book. It's the unconditional acceptance of all of who I am and the unconditional acceptance of all of who you are. It's based on the premise that we all are leaders, whether you're leading a nation or sweeping the floor. And if we remove the barriers and the constraints of organizational structure, it's amazing how we can really relate as human beings, that we all have choices to make. We're responsible for something. We've got to be accountable for something. We are committed to something. It may not be the same thing, but we are committed to something. When you have love in business, it's amazing what you can create when you start to see the human we are in all of us. Now, there are barriers, of course, to introducing love as a capability in organization. And I talk about this in my book, and the leaders share their perspectives too. In this conversation, I want to share two with you. The first one is around the connotations of love with the Me Too movement, the way that media has dealt with it, the different definitions that appear around love. I think the Greek philosophers have about 5 or 6. So there's so many definitions. So that's the first one. And the second barrier is time. So if we start with the first, the connotations, what we talk about in my book with my leaders is, first of all, define what love means to you. Take the definition. For example, you can take the one in my book, but you can start with what it means in your organization, in your world. What difference would it make? What would you see? What would you hear? What would be different if it were present? And once you have a universally understood definition, then enroll your entire organization behind it, and you've got something that you can use in measurement. The second one is time. I don't have the time. I've got competing priorities. I haven't time for myself, and so on and so forth. We talk about this in the book too, and the challenge to you is this. Can you imagine the length of time it takes of you to worry about people that work for you, giving them that feedback, managing performance, then having to terminate if you have to go that far, dealing with the repercussions, hiring somebody else. When you compare that to the potentially most enjoyable time in coaching, in listening, in encouraging people who work with you, and especially when you come from that place of acceptance and the belief that you value them, you will save time. The time it takes to make decisions, the time it takes to allocate resources, because you'll be coming from that place of love, people will trust you. Those are the two barriers, and you can read about more and how to overcome them in my book. I hope that what I've shared with you has touched you. It's got you more curious. And of course, you can learn more in the book, and you can very much reach out to me and I'll be delighted to have a conversation with you and indeed with the members of your team. But for now, thank you for listening. Bye.